Hello, and welcome to my channel. If you are that one returning viewer, good work, keep returning. And if you're a first-time viewer, you don't know what you're missing. So stick around and see what it is you're missing, if that makes sense. Anyway, what are we talking about today? I'm glad you asked me. Today we'll be looking at 5 disturbing books. Now, this is a really popular topic on YouTube, and rightly so, because it is really interesting to know what people find disturbing in literature or in movies or just in general. So here's my take on it anyway. Try to stay awake. I'll be asking questions at the end. First up, we have got by Chuck Palanhiuk. We have got Haunted. I apologise to Chuck Palanhiuk if he's watching this. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I imagine he does watch this YouTube channel because all reasonable people do. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, if you want, send me a private message and tell me how to pronounce your second name, your surname. So what's this book about? Basically, a group of artists. There are 23 of them in total. They are taken to they answer an advertisement to go to a retreat in the desert where they'll be secluded from the outside world and they'll be able to create their masterpiece. That's the basic premise. And essentially, this is it's a collection of short stories where each of these artists tells a personal story, something that happened to them or something they saw or what have you. And there's and of course interlinked throughout there. There's the fact that they arrive at the hotel, what happens to them through hotel. They arrive at the retreat, what happens to them through the retreat, and the climax at the end. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm just going to, that's the very, very basic sense of what happens. You've got all these people, they're in a retreat, and things start to go pear-shaped. So, I think this book is shocking because it's very, very. You need a strong stomach to read it in some parts. The first chapter, apparently, during a live reading, which the author did, I believe, in New York, or I might be wrong about that, the city. Some people were so horrified, so disgusted that they fainted. So the first story in particular is noted for having had quite a strong effect on people, and this is a very, very, very. I think this is a very unusual book. It's very unusual, and I think it's worth reading just for that, because it's not formulaic at all. It's very interesting the way things are. Each of these people has a very, very different story, and basically what they get up to at the retreat is just mind-bogglingly insane. So I definitely recommend this. It's not mega shocking, I don't think, but you do need a bit of a strong stomach. So next up we have got John Fowles, The Collector. Now, this book, the basic plot summary would be: there's this guy who's a nutter. He's an out-and-out nutter. I suppose in modern parlance, he would be what we would call an incel. And so he develops a bit of a fascination for a young woman, and rather than approach her like a normal person, he decides that he's going to kidnap her and keep her prisoner in a specially prepared basement in his house. And he proceeds to do this. The reason I think this is a disturbing book isn't for any gore or any physical violence, because there isn't any of that. It's just that it's an extremely disturbing book from a psychological profile, the horror of the young woman's situation, and I would also say the relentless insanity of her captor, because that's all it is. It's just insanity. It's a very, very well written book, and it's really gripping. And as I say, I think it's disturbing for the psychological aspects. Next up, we have got Iain Banks with The Wasp Factory. In this story, we follow a young man called Frank. Well, I think a boy. He's 16 years old. He lives on an island with his father. The island is not isolated. It's connected by a bit of land to the mainland. So it's not an isolation story. But this young man has a particular quirk in that he likes to kill people. I won't tell you who or how. Suffice to say that he's a multiple murderer, he's a psychopath, and he gets away with these murders through his own innate cunning. He has a brother who is in detention, a young brother who's in youth detention, I believe, for animal cruelty. His father is a very strange man, to say the least, and his mother, we don't meet her because she did a runner before the story starts. But the basic sense is you get that the entire family is, to use a technical term, a psychological term, cuckoo for car puffs, or car for cuckoo puffs, whichever way you want to put it, mad, mental. And this is quite a hard book to read. As I say, there is animal cruelty. Usually I'm not able to finish books with animal cruelty in them. I hate animal cruelty. This was an exception. I got through it. The animal cruelty side comes more later. It comes a bit later in the book. If you're really put off by animal cruelty, I'll give this a swerve. It's a very, again, like Haunted, I found this to be a very, very unusual book. It is a good book, and it's definitely worth reading. It's very well written. The characterization is very good, and the sense of place, the atmosphere is very, very good as well. So definitely it's something that I would read. I mean, I did read it. I mean, I would recommend it. Sorry about that technical problem. Next up, we have got Tampa. The protagonist of this novel is a young woman who is a teacher. And she is stunningly good looking. And she has she has it all, basically. She's got a successful husband, a nice house, etc., etc. The only problem is she's attracted to 14-year-old boys. And that's what this is about. It's about a female predator and how she goes about essentially acquiring victims in the school in which she works. So this is an interesting book because it deals with the idea of an offender who is a woman. And I think it's quite interesting because this is something that isn't necessarily talked about a lot. We see in contemporary news accounts, this kind of thing seems to be more common in general with women in schools or in places of authority preying upon their students or their charges. So this definitely does happen. And it's interesting to see a book where the lead character is an offender in this sense. I can understand that it could be triggering and it could be very shocking for some people. Personally, I found it quite. I didn't find it shocking personally. I thought it was a good read. Some people might say it's just trash. I wouldn't say so. It's not just like tawdry sex scene after sex scene. There's a story, there's a plot, there's characterization. And I would say it's an interesting book because I think it kind of gives an idea of this kind of crime from the female perspective. So, and the impact on the victims as well. And how society tends to treat female offenders, which is very eye-opening. Finally, we have got a book that's been doing the rounds recently, Gone to See the Riverman. Now, this book I've seen spoken about on other channels. I'm kind of late to the party reviewing this one, but okay. So I've Gone to See the Riverman. What's it about? The basic sense is the protagonist is a young woman. She's single. And she lives with her disabled sister, who's mentally and physically disabled. And she has a particular thing where she likes to correspond with serial killers. And there are people who like to do that. The work takes all sorts, as we say. And she's also visiting this serial killer in person. And during one visit, he asks her to go and see someone called the Riverman, hence Gone to See the Riverman. And he asks her to collect an object and bring it back for him. So he tells her where to find the Riverman. She goes there. The Riverman is perfectly nice and everything is fine. And the book ends. No, actually, that's not what happens. She agrees to go and see the Riverman because basically she's a bit of an idiot. And she does. And she takes her sister along because her sister can't be left alone. And this book is basically about her odyssey, what happens to her as she travels along this riverbank with her sister in order to meet the Riverman. Okay, so this is a disturbing book for sure, but in my opinion, it's not disturbing for the gore or anything like this. Yeah, there is some gore, etc., etc. You expect that in a horror book. I mean, every horror book has something obviously unpleasant in it, otherwise it wouldn't be horror. I didn't find the Riverman particularly disturbing either. The description of him, he's a monster, and you get he's really a monster. But the Riverman really is could almost not be in this book. I mean, in my opinion, he's a really, really peripheral character. The main villain of the book, really, in my opinion, is our protagonist. In the beginning, you think that she's just some ordinary woman, and she's nice of her. She's looking after her disabled sister. But by the end of the book, you see this woman in a completely different light, and the real horror really comes from, in my opinion, a completely different direction than the Riverman. But I'm not going to say any more than that. I mean, I'm not making out that the Riverman is a nice guy or anything. He's not. But in my opinion, the Riverman was kind of like a plot device, really, but not really very central to the story, I would say, in my opinion. But it's it is shocking. If you're triggered by certain things like SA or things like this, then, maybe give it a swerve. But I would recommend it. It's a decent enough read. It's not great. I've got to say that I enjoyed I enjoyed it. It was okay. But I probably wouldn't pick up. I think there's a sequel now. I probably wouldn't bother picking up the sequel. But I'm sure the author will survive that. Okay, so if you're still around, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or you can subscribe and like if you liked what I have produced, and maybe think about checking out some of my other videos. Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.